Come on. We will win. Because we will hit all game. We are motivated. We are dedicated. Come on now. Come on now. We will win. Because we are the best on the field. And we hit the field like all day light, all night light, on the blue light, offense light, defense light, his squad light, house call light, and it sound light, and it sound light, and it sound light. Looks right, throws it too high. Oh, it was called on the back end. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He called it in. ECU, the miracle win. In Lubbock tonight.
Goes for the end zone. The ball's in the air. It drops at the goal line. I think he counted for a touchdown. He got it. He got it. He got it. Touchdown, Nick Matthews. The Cougars win it. The Cougars win it. He gets in. He's got room to the right. Tucks. Throws anyway. In the end zone. It is caught. It's caught for a touchdown.
It's a good one. The set down. The kick is up. On the way. It is
goal. He missed the catch. Do you believe this? With 1:11 to go, he missed the kick.
He is up, and the kick is no good. And the Cougars are going to win the football game. Donnell Barnes over on the far side. He's going to keep it himself. Cut back inside. Slams for the touchdown. And the
forever. I'ma do this here forever.
Welcome everybody to the Short Sports Show. I am your host Daniel Short. Today is Thursday, January 28th, 2016, and as you guys know, this is our last 2 shows a week as we are switching to Wednesdays, and as well as still being an audio podcast that you guys can download wherever: YouTube, Spreaker, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. We will also on YouTube have the video version. I'm going to have my camera. I got my studio set up. Everything's going to be great. We will do that starting this Wednesday on February 3rd, which is also National Signing Day. So we're going to have a little bit of National Signing Day going on coverage as well as the normal show. As we will switch to just one show per week. As you know, this was supposed to be a Friday show, but I'm having Time Warner come in, set up the internet, get it a little bit better, so that way you guys are good to go as we will start having the show with video. And it takes a while to upload all that stuff, all that good stuff. But anyways, we're gonna have that. So this is why today's show is on Thursday. So here we go. It doesn't matter when you're listening, though. You can listen whenever. Thank you to iTunes and Stitcher Radio and iHeartRadio for letting that happen. The intro you just heard is by Triune featuring EQ, the new single called Forever. You can buy their song on iTunes, Google Play, all the other good stuff. The links are in the description down below. And let us get started. We have a lot of news to talk about, thankfully. I was afraid that we weren't going to have that much, but thankfully the past couple days, things have come together where we have a good amount of news, both college football and the NFL. Of course, again, National Signing Day is next week. We have an interview with J.C. Shurburtt, National Recruiting Director. He's going to be on the show today. And then we are also going to be talking about the Pro Bowl, which is also this Sunday. A lot of things happening, thankfully. A lot of things happening. So first, we will go on with, of course, the great University of Texas. And they said Tuesday that former NFL and Longhorns quarterback Vince Young will keep his job with the school after his arrest on a charge of driving while intoxicated. Now, Young was arrested late Sunday, and police said his speech was mumbled and slurred. And he's also employed by the Longhorn Network, which hasn't said whether he'll remain as an analyst. So who knows? But apparently, Texas helped him out because, well, he did a lot for them. Let's give him that. But also, he's been pretty bad with money ever since the NFL didn't work out for him. So they went ahead and paid him about $100,000 a year to be, to promote diversity and community engagement. That is his type. That is his job description. To promote diversity and community engagements. Almost $100,000 for that. Well, that's the least they can do because they made millions off of him and are continuing to make money when people re-air the 2005 game, which the Longhorn Network just seems to live in the past so much. That's one thing. They play that over and over. They play it at least twice a day. There's not one time that I don't go through, watch ESPN to see what's on, whether it's tablet, phone, computer, and they show the listings for the Longhorn Network, and it says 2005, the season, Longhorn Championship. This is why the Big 12 is struggling, because they got to deal with the Longhorn Network re-airing stuff that doesn't matter anymore. It's like, okay, we get it. It was a great game. Can you move on? You're hurting the Big 12 because of this stupid network, and all they want to show is whatever. But anyways, so he's still going to have the job to promote diversity and community engagement. Whether he's an analyst on Longhorn Network anymore, who knows? Probably so. Because someone's still got to talk about 2005, 100 times a day. Other Big 12 news is former Texas Tech quarterback Davis Webb is going to transfer to Colorado. He announced Wednesday. He's scheduled to graduate from Texas Tech this spring and will be able to play immediately for the Buffaloes as a senior graduate transfer. He said, quote, "It's a good fit, and I felt comfortable with the staff. I'm looking forward to competing and playing for playing time and being a great teammate," end quote. Now, we all know he's just saying, hey, I'm going to come here. I'm taking the starting job because I didn't transfer to be a backup that I already was at Texas Tech. Now, when he was with the Raiders, he started a total of 13 games from 2013 and 2014, throwing for 5,557 yards, 46 touchdowns during his 3 seasons in Lubbock. But after starting just 8 games in 2014, he was benched by Patrick Mahomes, as we all seen Mahomes just go crazy. Now, Colorado recently hired Texas Tech assistant as its new offensive coordinator, and guess who hosted Davis Webb during that visit? Yeah, you kind of guessed it. So they get to work together and make some things happen. Now, the Buffaloes lost their starting quarterback, Sefu Liafu. I'm pretty sure I messed up the last name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. To a season-ending Lisfranc injury in November, but there's a chance that he might miss the 2016 season, which means it's wide open for Davis Webb. And of course, Colorado had some weird thing going where this quarterback who was enrolled at Tennessee, then transferred to Colorado, and then within the 14-day window, you can transfer back to your school if they let you. So that quarterback then transferred back to Tennessee. Very strange exchange of what happened. It was before Davis Webb announced. Clemson quarterback Deshaun Watson has his eye on the NFL and says he could leave as early as next year, if the circumstances are right, of course. Watson spoke Wednesday before the Tigers basketball game with Pittsburgh. He was honored as the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame's Collegiate Player of the Year. He said, quote, "If I have the opportunity to go to the NFL, I'm going to take it." Now, Watson said one of his goals was to get a college degree, of course, before he leaves, and he's on track to graduate this December, which means this probably is his last year. And I think we all kind of knew that was going to happen based on the hype that he had before he even got to Clemson. Then his freshman year before the injury did pretty well. And then this past season, obviously taking the Clemson Tigers undefeated into the national championship game, which they almost won against Alabama. And offensively, almost everybody is returning. So you're thinking, Clemson's got another shot. They play in the ACC, not very strong. You only have to worry about what Florida State right now. And that's really it. So that Clemson's got it made for them. He said the sky's the limit. Just have to see how everything works out. I think we all kind of knew he was going to be headed to the NFL after this upcoming season, as he finishes up his, I guess, would be his junior year. He redshirted, so it might be his redshirt sophomore year. But either way, still, it's 3 years in college. He's got his degree. He's good, and he can head out. But, man, it makes it tough because while we have a number of quarterbacks this season for the NFL draft, not a lot of them are, okay, that's the guy. We've always usually had, okay, that's the guy. You know, some years we've had two with, Robert Griffin and Andrew Luck. We always said those are the two guys. They're going to go top 5. And this year we have a number of quarterbacks, but nobody is the guy. It changes every week between who it is. First, it was Jared Goff. Then it was Paxton Lynch. Now it's the North Dakota State quarterback. It could change every week, especially as we head up to the NFL draft and things get, time is closing in. But next year, really, it's Deshaun Watson. That's the quarterback. So, it's going to make teams look like, all right, well, maybe we should just address the other position. Maybe we should just get a receiver or an offensive lineman or, anybody else other than quarterback. Go with what you got and maybe draft one of these other guys later in the rounds and then go for Deshaun next year if things don't work out. That would be my goal. If I'm looking at a quarterback and I'm thinking, all right, well, Deshaun's most likely out next year, I'm going to go ahead and address another position, build up this roster a little bit more. If we fail without a quarterback, hey, at least we most likely got Deshaun next year. That's what you just got to do. That's my opinion. Instead of going for a quarterback, then find out he's a bust or something, and then, you can get Deshaun still, but then you still got missing holes on your team. That's all I'm going to say. UConn Athletic Director Ward Manuel is expected to accept the same position at Michigan. His alma mater sources confirmed. Now, during his tenure, Manuel hired men's basketball coach Kevin Ollie, who guided UConn to the 2014 national championship, and football coach Bob Diaco, who coached the Huskies to the St. Petersburg Bowl in just his second season. Now, Manuel was in his fourth year of his 5-year contract with UConn, and his base salary of $450,000 with incentives that would allow him to reach up to $100,000 more each year. So, pretty good move. I mean, you're going to your alma mater. Why not go there? I mean, it's great for him. And also, I don't know what's the difference in living in UConn and Michigan. I mean, there's some parts of Michigan that are really nice, and then there's some parts where, stay away. But UConn, it's cold either way, so I don't think he cares about the weather. But it's great for him to be able to go back to his alma mater. Iowa quarterback C.J. Beathard has had hernia surgery and will miss at least 6 weeks. It ranges from 6 to 8 weeks. So it's obviously going to miss spring practice a little bit, but should be able to go, obviously, for the season. But an interesting thing I wanted to talk about that really caught my eye, and I said, hey, this would be perfect to talk about, perfect to get people's reactions on. Now, since 2009, 6 first-year starting quarterbacks have won the national championship. 6. That's crazy. And over the last 7 seasons, 9 first-year starters have played in the national championship. That's incredible. So, we had this year, we had Jake Coker's first start was the Alabama opener in 2015. And his last was a national championship game where he threw for 335 yards and got the W. Now, Blake Sims of Alabama, Ohio State's J.T. Barrett, and Cardale Jones were first-year starters who helped guide their teams to the college football playoff in 2014. In 2010, we had Auburn, first-year starter, and guess who? Cam Newton, who squared off with fellow first-year starter Darren Thomas of Oregon. 3 seasons later, we had Jameis Winston at Florida State and Nick Marshall at Auburn. Both met as first-year starters in the BCS final. So who's next? Who is the next first-year starter, or at least first-year starter for that team, that will make the run to at least the college football playoffs and possibly the national championship? So here's just a list of few. Stay with me. I'm going in alphabetical order, so don't just think I'm going to skip your team or whatever. Stick with me now. Alabama's Cooper Bateman or Blake Barnett. Now, let's face it, Jay Coker, he wasn't exactly a great quarterback. He was more of a game manager. He got the job done with superb talent. I mean, look at what Alabama has. And now Cooper Bateman or Blake Barnett could possibly do the exact same thing and repeat. Now, Barnett, he was a 2015 5-star signee and rated the number 1 pocket passer out of high school, nationally, in his class, number 1. So can he take the step? Can Cooper Bateman do something? I mean, Alabama, even though they're losing guys, they always just reproduce. It's just stud after stud after stud, defensively, offensively. So can one of these guys take that next step and at least do the same job that Jake Coker did? And then maybe a little bit more. If they do a little bit more, then we see the sky's the limit for Alabama. If not, then, well, college football playoffs most likely. I mean, it's Alabama. They get it done. They get it done. Whether we like it or not, they get it done. Moving on, Florida State's DeAndre Francois, if I said his last name right. Now, the Seminoles return starter Sean McGuire, but he'll miss spring with a fractured ankle. Now, that's not supposed to lead into the normal offseason stuff, but it's something to think about. Now, DeAndre is a highly touted redshirt freshman who could take advantage of these extra reps and maybe change some things around. But he's also got to worry about early enrollee, and one of the top-rated quarterbacks in Malik Henry. Now, FSU, of course, they return just about everybody on this team, and they're looking to make some early jumps through somewhat of a tough schedule, but it gets kind of weak in the middle. So, can one of these guys in DeAndre or Malik Henry take over as starting quarterback over Sean McGuire? Because let's face it, again, Sean McGuire wasn't the greatest either. You know, he showed toughness, of course, against Houston, but obviously wasn't enough. And I don't know, maybe Malik, a lot of people are talking about him. DeAndre could be the guy. He knows the system already. He's been there for a year and a half. Maybe. And especially, again, with all the talent, you got to take everything into account. The talent that Florida State's returning. Then you have Georgia's Jacob Eason. Now, Grayson Lambert, who was the starter last year, returns in 2016, but the Bulldogs quarterback situation is still very, very questionable. Now, Bryce Ramsey, he was a blue chip recruit in 2013, but failed to beat out Lambert last season and really just didn't look didn't look good at all. Then you bring in Jacob Eason, a true freshman who's already on campus and is the top quarterback in this class. You have a brand new coach, Kirby Smart. So could Eason be the guy who takes all these reps and just says, I'm better than these two quarterbacks and can get things done and take this team? Never know. You never know, but Jacob Eason sure has a good argument to his side. Then you have Notre Dame's Malik Zaire. Now, I know what you're thinking. Whoa. He already started. He did. He opened up the 2015 season as a starter, but he suffered a season-ending injury in Notre Dame's second game. And his first career start was against Texas, who just dominated them. He was 19 of 22, 313 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So we're adding him into this list because, again, we only saw him in a game and a half, really. So, and then he's got to beat out the guy who did a really outstanding job in Deshaun Kaiser, who took the Irish to the Fiesta Bowl. I'm not going to say almost got the victory, but because they got blown out. But you know what I'm saying. He did a great job this past season. And this is going to be one of the most talked about, if not the talked about, quarterback competition because both of these guys are great. They really are. So with that, could Malik Zaire take over as the starter once again and take this team to the playoffs and possibly the national championship? You got to throw him in here. It was just 2 games. That's all we saw him for. 2 games or a game and a half. So let's throw him in there. Then you have Oregon's quarterback Dakota Prukop. It's going to be a fun name to say throughout the season. The Ducks are going again to the FCS route and getting a lower division as a graduate transfer. Now Prukop is already on campus, unlike Vernon Adams last year, who didn't even join Oregon until August due to academic issues. So Prukop's already there. He's learning that offense. Could he be the guy? Now I know Oregon has some guys that have been in the waitings, obviously, after they come FCS. But are any of those guys really competition for Dakota Prukop? Now, he wasn't a Vernon Adams great in FCS, because Vernon Adams, he was, and as we saw, he was great in FCS and pretty solid last year for Oregon. Now, can Dakota do some work where those other guys, once again, are nothing or redshirt, and he takes over? I'm not too sold on Dakota just yet. I've watched a little bit of tape on him, but I'm not all in on him. Oregon, I can't think of the guy. I know I've talked to somebody about Oregon's quarterbacks, and they have a guy in waiting who's like 6'3", 6'4", has an arm, and obviously can run this offense. He redshirted last year, so I don't know if I'm too in on Dakota Prukop, but he is one of those guys. And as well as really could throw in any of Oregon's quarterbacks then as a first-year starter. Could they be the guy? Other than Jeff Locke, I don't even know if he's returning next season. He might as well just quit football because, man, that guy's terrible. Moving on, Stanford's quarterback Keller Chris. Now, he is ESPN's Recruiting Nation's third best pocket passer in the class of 2014. And he's expected to take over for Kevin Hogan, who took Stanford to 3 Rose Bowls. Now, after a demolishing victory over Iowa, there was talk that the Cardinals could be a playoff caliber team in 2016, and I believe there still is. You still have Christian McCaffrey, who just runs that offense in all. So Stanford, you know, it really, I don't think it really matters that much who's the quarterback. Now, Kevin Hogan, he did a great job in what he could, and I really liked him. But I mean, Christian McCaffrey is just going to go off. He's going to run the ball for touchdowns. He's going to catch it out of the backfield. All you got to do is dump it off, 3 to 5 yards, maybe 7 yards max. Dump it off to him, and he's going to be gone. And then, he's going to return kickoffs. He's going to return punts. He's going to paint your back porch, and he's going to score all at the same damn time. So I really don't think it matters who's the quarterback for Stanford, because I'm pretty sure they have a favored schedule and are going to look pretty good. But can he beat out senior quarterback Ryan Burns this offseason? That's going to be a question. But, man, Christian McCaffrey, he might as well be the quarterback too. Might as well. I think he has like a younger brother who's a quarterback in high school. I think he's going to be a freshman, or a senior this year in high school. Might as well just recruit him. I don't know if McCaffrey will stay next year. I don't think. Oh no, let me think. No, he probably won't. Well, yes, he will. He'll be a junior next year. So, bam, have the McCaffrey brothers, quarterback, running back. Stanford, you're good next year. 2017 national championship. Last but not least, I want to throw this in there. Little biased, but I think it also makes a point. TCU's Kenny Hill. Now, wait a minute. I know. He started several games for Texas A&M. But after sitting out last year due to NCAA transfer rules, Kenny Hill has a chance to lead a young but now experienced Horned Frogs team to the college football playoffs and possibly the national championship. I know he started for A&M. Some of these other guys never even started a college football game in their life. But I thought I'd throw him in there because, again, he's a transfer. He's starting his first game as a new member of the team. I thought that could be. I'm just throwing it out there. You can take him out if you want. I just thought I'd add it. But anyways, the whole point of this is there anyone I left out? Who has the best chance of taking their team to the college football playoffs and possibly the national championship? Let me know in the comment section and tweet me at @short_sports 24/7. Let me know if there's anyone I left out. Who do you believe in this group, in this crop, that could be the next first-year starting quarterback, whether it's for that team or overall, and take their team to the playoffs and possibly the national championship? Let me know. Be sure to share it and like it with your friends and family so that way everybody sees us and everybody has their opinion. Finally, with college football, again, next Wednesday, we have the National Signing Day. The funnest day in high school / college football. It's by far one of the best that there's no games happening. Obviously, we're going to have some crazy stuff. But I had the chance to interview J.C. Shurburtt. Now, you might have heard him before. Obviously, I'm pretty sure if you paid attention to anything through college football and recruiting, you know J.C. Shurburtt. He has been with 24/7 Sports as their national recruiting director. He's been on ESPN as their writer for their analyst for national recruiting. He's been everywhere. He's also on SaturdayDownSouth.com. Check him out there. Links will be in the description down below. But I had the chance to interview him on Wednesday. And great interview, and got to talk about a lot of high school football and what should we expect for the college football and this National Signing Day. Check it out. We have JC Shurburtt. Now, JC has been everywhere and anywhere for college football recruiting, including being the national recruiting director at 24/7 Sports and college football recruiting writer for ESPN. Hey, JC, thanks for being on the show. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be with you today, man.
Now, we're exactly 1 week from National Signing Day. What should we expect with 3 of the top 10 players undecided?
Well, those guys are all interesting. I'll start with the number 1 overall prospect in the class, Rashawn Gary, out of the state of New Jersey. Looks like he's going to make a whirlwind visit this weekend and go to Clemson and Alabama, which were, the two teams that played for all the marbles this year. Clemson's always sort of been a dark horse for him just because he has family in Anderson, South Carolina, which is about 20 minutes away from Clemson University. So I'd watch that very closely. And, Alabama, of course, tells itself it's, 4 national championships or whatever, and certainly they have a lot of talented defensive linemen and have a history of producing them. So that being said, the favorite to land Gary for just about the entire cycle has been Michigan. So it's a situation where, this is probably going to go in Michigan's favor, but I do go back to Deshaun Hand a few years ago where it looked like Michigan was going to get him, and the Wolverines came up short, and he ended up going to Alabama. Could this be a similar situation? I don't know. You look down the top 10, Derek Brown, the defensive tackle from Lanier High School in Buford, Georgia. I think he's going to Georgia. Auburn's made a push. Tennessee's kind of outside those two, kind of outside looking in. But at the end of the day, it's a Gwinnett County kid. He's always favored Georgia. Georgia's got a good recruiting staff. Tracy Rocker is one of the best defensive line coaches in the country. I just don't know that there's going to be the need for him to journey too far from home. There's no catalyst for that from what I see. And then Ben Davis, the linebacker from the state of Alabama, from Gordo, Alabama. His dad played at Alabama. Other schools have tried to make a run at him, but at the end of the day, it's going to be hard to beat the Crimson Tide on that kid. It would be, a very surprising recruiting upset if he ended up anywhere else.
Right, and right now, Ohio State currently has the number 1 spot for the 2016 team rankings on multiple sites. Do you see that standing, or do you see anybody making a late push?
Well, I don't know necessarily that they have the space and the targets remaining to finish number 1. And what you got to do is you got to look at the runway. I call it the runway. They have a very short runway. When you look at like the 24/7 Sports team rankings, which are based on composite rankings, which are the ones I use because it's kind of the consensus for everybody. LSU actually currently is number 1. They don't have a whole lot of spaces left. Ohio State, 282 points. How many more guys are they going to take? They're sitting at 22. Michigan at 25. You go on down the list, and there's Alabama at 7th, Georgia at 9th. Alabama has 17 commits. Georgia has 15. There's more room, especially in the case of Alabama. And I did not think that the Tide could finish number 1 for a 6th straight class. But if you run the numbers, and they have an overwhelming finish to recruiting, they definitely could finish number 1 simply because the other schools don't have the runway to get there. But Alabama does. So that's going to be something interesting to follow is, can Alabama close and finish number 1 for the 6th straight cycle?
Now, who are you most excited for to step on campus and put in some serious work this season?
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing kind of how, some of these players end up making the transition of the guys that are supposed to step on campus early, or over the summer. Rashawn Gary certainly is a guy that comes to mind just because he's been pretty good since the last cycle. We saw him out at the opening in Portland, and the last cycle was kind of rare as far as D tackles go. It was about 8 or 9 deep with elite defensive tackles. This guy was probably better than most of those guys as a junior. So wherever he goes, I'm excited to watch and see if he can make an impact. I'll tell you, some more guys that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing. How's Miles Sanders, very talented 5-star running back from Pittsburgh, going to fit in at Penn State with the talent they have on campus. Antonius Clayton, who's a defensive end, is committed to Florida. I think he's the best pure pass rusher in the country. But he's 218 pounds. So is he going to be able to kind of, gain the bulk, gain the strength? And then the kid going to Clemson, Tavian Feaster, running back, who's not a 5-star according to Composite, but who's a 5-star in my book. And I don't understand, the logic. I think people that drop him in the rankings probably have never seen him play. You add him and his game-breaking ability to what Clemson has coming back on offense, Deshaun Watson, Wayne Gallman, a host of talented receivers like Artavis Scott. That's just another piece to the puzzle that I think takes that offense to an even higher level next season. And as we all know, running backs can make a big impact early. So I think that when you look at him and you look at Clemson and sort of the impact he can make on a team that should contend for the playoffs next year, Feaster's a name I think you'll definitely hear.
All right, I guess it answered my second question, which was who is someone not a whole lot of people are talking about, or maybe, like you said, who you believe is a 5-star, but they don't see it as it, but who was going to turn heads this season? And I guess you went ahead and got that one down. Do you believe there's going to be any late switches from premier players, top 10, top 15 guys that might make the late switch, or is it just all but wrapped up?
Yeah, this year I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of flips among the elite, the top guys. Simply because this year, Daniel, a lot of the guys have remained uncommitted. We haven't, I think 1 or 2 cycles ago, you looked at it, it's almost an epidemic of flips at the end. A lot of guys were just flipping the flip, and build drama and all that good stuff. But, this year, your Derek Browns and your Rashawn Garys and your Ben Davises, McKay Juarez out of California, those guys have stayed uncommitted. And even in the case of, like, Isaac Nada, who was a long-time committed to Florida State, but ended up at Georgia, and he's already enrolled there, the 5-star tight end. He's a guy that, did it right. He decommitted, went back to being open, weighed all his options, and then ultimately committed to Georgia. There's not going to be a whole lot of gotcha flip this signing day, unless we see something out on the West Coast. The West Coast, a lot of times, some of these California guys will do it late. They'll flip from a UCLA to a USC or something like that. But there's really nothing on the radar this year that makes me think that. So I think that I think that we'll have a lot of drama in terms of announcements of uncommitted prospects, but not a lot of drama in terms of guys flipping and at the last minute and things of that nature.
Oh, it's good to hear. I have an interview with Nate Craig Myers after his commitment. What do you see in him, and where do you see him going?
Well, Nate Craig Myers, I think that he's a kind of an example of getting back to your first love. I think that when you look at it, Auburn makes the most sense for him. Ole Miss is in the mix. North Carolina's in the mix. But at the end of the day, he's got a great relationship with Damian Craig at Auburn. He was committed to Auburn for a long time. I think Javon Myers, who's his brother, who's a cornerback from the west coast of Florida, will probably end up at Auburn. So I'd be surprised if at the end of the day it wasn't Auburn. But I was surprised, quite frankly, he decommitted to begin with and, ended up with the final schools that he did. So who knows? He may surprise me, but I think when all is said and done, he's going to the plains of East Alabama.
Well, I appreciate your time, JC, and I look forward to seeing what you write for National Signing Day.
Hey, I appreciate it, Daniel. You be good, brother.
I appreciate it. You can follow JC on Twitter at JC Shurburtt and his writings on SaturdayDownSouth.com. Now, as we move on to the NFL, Wednesday at the Senior Bowl, Dallas Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones walked up to North Dakota State quarterback Carson Wentz to shake his hand. Now, despite being an early part of the evaluation process, the connection to Wentz and the Cowboys has already begun. Perhaps even with the 4th overall pick in this year's draft? I don't know. Probably not. But here's what Jerry Jones had to say. Quote, "There are many options. There's free agency. The question you asked, and I'm taking it literally, is Do you have to? Have to do what? We have to draft a quarterback to compete for a Super Bowl next year? Do we have to compete for a Super Bowl in the future? Do you have to have it in place after you have this draft? Quote. Now, there's no have to here in my mind because we have the luxury of having Tony Romo for a minimum of 3 to 4 to 5 years here. So we're going to play football and hopefully play it well with a healthy Romo, end quote. Now, since taking Troy, what? I have no idea. Troy Aikman with the first overall pick in the 1989 draft. The Cowboys have just drafted 4 quarterbacks since then. Steve Walsh, 1989, which was a supplemental draft pick. Bill Musgrave in 1991. Quincy Carter, which I wish had worked out. I was a fan of Quincy Carter when I just got into football. In 2001. And Steve McGee in 2009, which I honestly said, this is probably not good news, but I said Stephen McGee would be the guy to dethrone Tony Romo after a couple years. I thought by 2011, McGee would be the starting quarterback. I loved watching him at Texas A&M. I'm not an Aggies fan, but I liked his playing style. And I thought, hey, he can be the guy. I think he's the guy that could dethrone Tony Romo as the Cowboys starting quarterback. Boo! That was a terrible, terrible analysis. Again, I was probably, 12 at the time? So, trying to save myself a little bit here. Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton doesn't plan to change who he is or what he says just because he's preparing for the Super Bowl. And all that hype comes with it. Quote, I've said this since day one. I'm an African-American quarterback that may scare a lot of people because they haven't seen nothing that they can compare me to, end quote. Now, Newton has been everywhere on media and has taken a ton of criticism much of his career. He was called immature and moody during his first couple seasons because sometimes he would sit alone at the sidelines with the towel over his head when the team was losing and, just would kind of pace around and, just have this look on his face where no one really get near him. Not that he was going to yell or anything, just it didn't seem like the guy he wanted to be around. He was questioned for his lack of leadership. He was questioned for dabbing and dancing in the end zones, thinking he was too much of an ego, too much cockiness. And he would take photos of his teammates during big blowout victories. And a lot of people didn't like that. They didn't like his style. But Newton said he's the same person now as he was when the Panthers drafted him number 1 overall in the 2011 draft. Quote, the only thing that's changed is we're winning, end quote. And they have been. The Panthers are 17-1. They've won 22 of their past 24 games, including the playoffs, going back to a 4-game winning streak to end the 2014 season. Now, Newton's obviously the leading candidate, and I think is all in. I think we all know he's the NFL MVP. After leading the league with 45 touchdowns total, that's 35 passing and 10 rushing, during the regular season. Now, last week against Arizona, he threw for 335 yards and 2 touchdowns and rushed for 2 more in the 49-15 blowout victory of the Arizona Cardinals in the NFC Championship game. Now, head coach Ron Rivera said Newton is doing on the field what should scare people. And saying, quote, people should be scared of a quarterback with his skill set more than anything else. That's who he is. He's a tremendously gifted athlete, a terrific quarterback, a smart football player. The list goes on and on, end quote. And really, I was part of the group that was saying that he was immature and moody his first couple of years because nobody really liked, I mean, obviously when you're losing and things aren't working out multiple years and things aren't really changing, obviously you're going to be upset, especially being the starting quarterback and having all the hype that Cam Newton had. And all that pressure comes back to you. So hindsight, looking back at it, yeah, you can see why it was like that. But majority of the quarterbacks don't act like that when things are going bad. And especially, I think it's just because he was younger. He just came in, and we're thinking, why is this guy, he's not a leader. This guy is just sitting there by himself or pacing around, and I don't know. It just had this bad vibe to him, and it was just like, I didn't like Cam Newton the first couple of years because of that. I didn't like how he was acting. I wanted him to do good. I liked him at Auburn, but I just didn't like what was happening in the first couple of seasons. Obviously, that's, changed, and I'm not a bandwagon or anything. I still liked him. I just didn't like what he was doing at that time. I never said he was going to be a bust or anything. But it's crazy to see how it's changed, and it's really just been the winning. And obviously that will do it to anybody. If you're losing multiple years and you've been really nothing but a winner, and then you're just losing, and all that comes back to you, no matter even if you had a good game, and you're like, what's the deal here? So I can see why, but now I'm glad everything's changed. I'm glad the Panthers are actually good. I'm glad Cam Newton is back on top and doing his thing, because he's still young and he's going to be in Carolina for a very long time and might be here for a couple more Super Bowls. Who knows? Not going to go any more into it, but got a good chance here with this team. The Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson was selected first overall in the Pro Bowl draft. He was chosen by Michael Irvin, who is serving as a Pro Bowl legend captain. On opposite will be fellow Hall of Famer Jerry Rice. Now, Eli Manning was the second overall pick Wednesday in the 2016 draft, and he got his number one guy in Odell Beckham Jr. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. and Los Angeles Rams, that's going to have to get some getting used to there. Defensive lineman Aaron Donald will be serving as active player captains for Team Rice. And Atlanta Falcons running back Devontae Freeman and Cincinnati Bengals defensive lineman Geno Atkins are captains for Team Irvin. So here's how somewhat the draft went. I'm not going to go in complete order. Just some of the big names, who they were drafted to and where they were drafted. The Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones went third to Team Irvin. Oakland Raiders defensive end Khalil Mack was drafted by Team Rice with the fourth pick. Irvin took defensive players with the next three picks, and Seattle Seahawks cornerback Richard Sherman, Detroit Lions defensive end Ezekiel Anza, and Seahawks defensive end Michael Bennett, before drafting wide receivers A.J. Green of the Bengals and DeAndre Hopkins of the Houston Texans in the 6th and 7th rounds, respectively, of course. Rice took Miami Dolphins wide receiver Jarvis Landry with his third pick, then went with the Raiders duo of quarterback Derek Carr and wide receiver Amari Cooper. And then with his next two selections after that, before taking Kansas City Chiefs cornerback Marcus Peters, and then taking running back Adrian Peterson of the Minnesota Vikings. You let me know who's got a better squad. I don't understand. Here's my thing. I don't understand why people don't like the Pro Bowl. Now, I'm going to say this. I loved it more when it was AFC versus NFC. And it was after this, and I wish, I don't know if it was, but I would like it if this could get people to watch the Pro Bowl more. I don't understand how people can hate it. I understand the lack of competitiveness sometimes, yeah. But this is how you could change all of that and make it where it's profitable and entertaining to watch for all fans. Pro Bowl, 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. Everybody has time to rest. People coming off of playoff losses can get over it in a way. And the teams that win the Super Bowl or lose, have time to rest after a huge, a crazy long season, excitement, disappointment, and travel down to Hawaii with their friends and family and play in the Pro Bowl. 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. That is when the Pro Bowl should be played. And go back to AFC, NFC. I loved it when it was that. I loved it. I loved the AFC, NFC thing. It was fun. And if you look back at it, if you're a fan that just doesn't like the Pro Bowl for some odd reason, you do not like the Pro Bowl, whether it's because how it is now or you just never liked it, go back and watch previous highlights. Back in the early years, 2003, 2004, 2005, back when LT was there, back when Sean Taylor, rest in peace, is there. Guys that are like that were in the Pro Bowl. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. Watch those highlights. Watch the big hits. Watch the crazy plays of the Pro Bowl. And if you tell me that does not make you change your mind in just the slightest bit, just stop watching football completely. Just stop. You do not deserve to be a fan. You do not deserve to have your eyes on NFL football. Because if you don't like that, I don't know what's wrong with you. Because those were the glory days. And that's why we need to have it back to AFC, NFC, going at it, best of the best. I know we have it in the Super Bowl. 2 weeks later, we'll get everybody. Guys that were on the Lions who sucked and had no chance of making the playoffs back in the day. But they had some great players. Boom, you put them on there. 2 weeks after the season, perfect. After the Super Bowl, everybody's had plenty of rest, and everybody's able to enjoy and relax as they head into the offseason and have some fun. That is what would make the Pro Bowl great, in my opinion. If you want to keep this draft thing or whatever, fine. If you want to not have it AFC, NFC, but 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, that's fine by me. I think that would just make it a little bit better. And that way, also, the people that say they don't like the Pro Bowl but they love football, have it 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. I guarantee you they're going to watch it because they need a little bit of football, because we all jump into the hibernation and it sucks. So this is why that's how the Pro Bowl should be, and I guarantee you it'll be back to greatness. Let me know if you do not like the Pro Bowl. I want to understand your reasoning for not liking the Pro Bowl, whether it is now, and I can understand because of when it's taking place and maybe how it is. Maybe you liked it back to AFC, NFC. That's fine. I'm not picking on you. I'm saying if you just do not like the Pro Bowl, whether it would change right now back to what I said, or how it used to be, or what it is now, or just don't like it in general, please let me know. I would love to understand your reasoning on how you cannot like the Pro Bowl. Blows my mind. It blows my mind. Anyways, the Pro Bowl, the 2016 NFL Pro Bowl, will be televised Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, 6 p.m. Central. I'm going to miss you, football. I'm going to miss you. That is it for today's show, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'm excited because we are at the beginning of greatness, guys. We truly are. The Short Sports Show will now be on Wednesday, starting February 3rd. On YouTube, Spreaker.com. It's still going to be on the same platforms. The only thing that we're adding and changing is the date of when the show will be played, and that you guys will be able to see my studio set up starting on Wednesday, February 3rd. We're going to be doing some national signing day coverage as well during the show, and then obviously doing the normal show throughout the time period. So thank you guys so much for listening. As always, God first, God bless. Share this with your friends and family. Thank you so much for the support, and I'm out. Peace.
Forever, I'ma do this here forever. Forever, I'ma do this here forever. Forever, I'ma do this here forever. Forever, I'ma do this here forever.
I done came way too far for me to stop it now. I done worked way too hard just to drop it now. We came so